There are a lot of fights and fighters that are flying under the radar this weekend at UFC Rio Rancho, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't quite have it in me to make a separate video about each and every one of their fights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bundle all of these young, talented prospects into this one video and tell you guys who you need to be looking out for this weekend at UFC Fight Night 167 on ESPN Plus 25, Rio Rancho Anderson versus Blachowicz 2, and we're going to start our list off with Brok Weaver. You knew it was coming first. He's been hyped up forever. The UFC just posted a video of him on their Instagram, which immediately got over 1 million views of his interview that he had after his Contender Series win. He is a fighter. He is an entertaining personality on a microphone. He has been hyped up for a very long time. I'm looking forward to his eventual debut in the UFC. Fingers crossed it comes together this Saturday, because we've been waiting for this for a very long time. We've had it rescheduled. It was originally supposed to fight Thomas Gifford, had to pull out, so now we've got him versus Rodrigo Vargas, which, to be honest with you, I kind of prefer over the Thomas Gifford fight, because I like Thomas Gifford. But in terms of records, Rodrigo Vargas, 11-3. That's a good test to come into the UFC against. I'm looking forward to this fight. Brok Weaver's a beast. He's a massive lightweight as well. Used to compete at welterweight, I believe, throughout his career. A huge man for the lightweight division. And he could really come in here and make a big statement, because they've positioned him on the main card for a reason. They know that he's marketable. And if they can get him a big finish in his UFC debut, we're off to the races. Brok Weaver's our next superstar at lightweight. And the lightweight division always loves company, and the more people we have, the more conversations we have, and the more fun fights we have down the line. Brok Weaver is someone I'm especially looking forward to seeing fight throughout this card this weekend. Can't wait for his fight. I think that he will get the jump on Rodrigo Vargas, and I'll be honest with you guys, if he doesn't get the jump on Rodrigo Vargas, it's going to be very disappointing. So the pressure is on for Brok Weaver. He has had a ton of hype coming into his debut. He needs to perform well. I believe that he will perform well. And with the right approach to his career, I think we could be looking at a future contender, because the way this guy fights is very nice. I love watching it. I loved his Contender Series performance, and I hope that he goes out there and puts work on Rodrigo Vargas. But if Vargas wins, all the hype's out of Brok Weaver, all the hype's into Rodrigo Vargas. So you just run with him instead. It's a win-win, basically. But we're hoping that Brok Weaver wins. He's 28 years old, so Rodrigo Vargas is 34. He's got a whole career ahead of him in the UFC. If things go well, I'm looking forward to seeing Brok Weaver fight another fighter. And fights that I want you guys to pay attention for on the card is Rogerio Bontorin versus Ray Borg. This will fly under the radar purely because it's a flyweight contest. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really glad that this got shifted onto the main card, because if you remember, Devin Clark versus Antigulov was supposed to be on the main card. Antigulov pulled out. Daquan Townsend took the fight, therefore degrading the credibility of the fight. That made Rogerio Bontorin and Ray Borg get a sliding position onto the main card, which I am a big fan of, because Rogerio Bontorin might be the next big thing at flyweight, okay? We got to really start paying attention to this guy. Phenomenal record, 16-1. Not only 16-1, but in his last 3 fights, he fought a guy in Gustavo Gabriel who was 13-0 at the time, beat him by standing rear naked choke on the Contender Series, earning his spot in the UFC. Then fought Magomed Bibulatov, who was also 14-1. Not the fight that you want coming into your UFC debut, I'll be honest with you guys. Gets the job done by split decision. Bibulatov is an absolute savage of a fighter. 14-1, now 14-2. I'm sure he's going to bounce back in his career soon. That is an amazing feat to take on in your first ever UFC fight, in your debut. Then he goes on and beats Raulian Paiva, who was 18-2 at the time. This guy is defeating phenomenal fighters with phenomenal records, and I think the only way is up from here. And I believe that Ray Borg, who was at bantamweight for a little while and is now trying to redrain his body down to flyweight, I don't think he's going to have a fun time with a weight cut, and I feel like this could be a big showcase moment for Rodrigo Bontorin, and we could be looking at a 17-1 flyweight come Sunday night. Or Saturday night, whenever the fight ends. We'll see what happens. I think he's going to go out there and beat Ray Borg. Pay attention to Rogerio Bontorin, because I'll be honest, he's 2-0. In any other division, that means nothing. In flyweight, that means absolutely everything. If you've got a guy that's 2-0, about to be 3-0 if he defeats Ray Borg, I'm kind of rooting for Ray Borg because I like Ray Borg. But Rogerio Bontorin, if you've got a 3-0 flyweight, he's coming off a big KO in the second round against Raulian Paiva. You could be looking at a real serious hype train in the flyweight division, and we haven't had one of those for a very long time. We kind of had it with Kai Kara France, but he just lost to Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno's kind of the hype train now, but Brandon Moreno is on the prelims of UFC Brasilia. Let that sink in your fucking head. Jussier Formiga versus Brandon Moreno could be a title elimination bout. It's opening up the early prelims. Let that sink into your brain for a second. Rodrigo Bontorin might be the best thing we've got at flyweight. Very marketable. A big flyweight as well, so he looks a little bit more intimidating than the rest of the midgets. He's going to do an amazing job. Hopefully he wins this Saturday, becomes 17-1. And maybe goes in to face the winner of Kai Kara France versus Tyson Nam. Maybe we get to see Rogerio Bontorin versus Alejandro Pantoja after this one. We will see. Bontorin's another guy that I want you to look out for. So far we've got Brok Weaver, Rogerio Bontorin on the main card. I want to take you guys to the prelims. And I want to mention a big fight. It's Kenney versus Merab Devlashi. I'm looking forward to this one so much. To be honest with you, I feel like Merab Devlashi's UFC record doesn't tell the tale. He's 2-2 in the company, but the Ricky Simone fight, first of all, it's Ricky Simone. He's top 20, and he's proved that he is top 20 with his close fights with guys like Rob Font, who's top 10. Ricky Simone's the real fucking deal. I just feel like in that fight, it was very controversial, and Merab was winning that fight, if you remember. I love Merab. I don't think his UFC record tells the tale. He went to a split decision with Frankie Sains where he was injured, and I thought he won that fight as well. I mean, Merab is a beast, okay? And I think he's going to get the jump on Kenney. I love Kenney. I love that there's a judo guy doing a damn thing in the UFC. I'm looking forward to him continuing his streak. On a 6-fight win streak right now in the UFC, has wins over Ray Borg and Manny Bermudez. Those are two great wins to have. I think Merab gets it done. I've predicted Merab as an underdog to get it done against Kenney, but this fight is very intriguing to me. Because whoever wins this one is all of a sudden a 3-0 bantamweight. And they don't come around cheap. You know what I'm saying? Going 3-0 at the bantamweight division, there's some killers around. Merab is an absolute monster, just beating Terrion Ware, who isn't the best, but a veteran of the UFC. Had a lot of fights, had a lot of experience. Then he beat Brad Katona, who was a young prospect. Brad Katona's now cut from the UFC. Merab Devlashi is a beast. I feel like he may be able to pull off the upset against Kenney, but if Kenney wins, we got a 28-year-old with a bunch of steam behind him. People love to watch him fight. He's very entertaining. This is going to be an amazing bout, and pay attention to the winner, please, because I feel like they're going to be in a really good position to potentially call out someone in the rankings, including Song Yadong, who's in the rankings, coming off a draw, probably not going to get a fight against anyone ranked above him, so he's going to be looking down the rankings for an opponent. If Kenney gets the win, I can see him getting the Song Yadong fight, but if Merab Devlashi gets the win, I don't think that's quite going to happen. Devlashvili, his name is. I'm looking forward to it though. Both of these guys are absolute technical savages. I'm looking forward to the fight. I hope Kenney wins. I think Merab's going to pull off the upset. But Kenney is a talent. If he wins this next one, that's 14-1. That's a really good record. 3-0 in the UFC if he wins this as well, Kenney. We're looking at Kenney to win. I think Merab's going to pull off the upset. But pay attention. Because if Kenney does win, that speaks wonders. Especially if he wins convincingly. Because no one's beaten Merab Devlashi convincingly in the UFC yet. We've only seen controversy in both of his losses. A split decision which was controversial. And then a robbery at the end where he kind of got choked. It went over the time and the bell. The referee never called off the fight. He was out, but he wasn't out. He was kicking his legs, but he was out cold. It was a weird situation. Merab's a monster. I feel like he could arguably be 4-0 in the UFC right now on a different night. So this is a great fight to have. Two young prospects of the bantamweight division ready to throw down. There can only be one. And one more person I want to pay attention to on the prelims. Maisie Chiasson. I know people hate on female fights. And Maisie Chiasson's last fight against Lena Landsberg wasn't the most entertaining. It was Lena Landsberg kind of holding her against the cage the whole time. I'll be honest with you. But Maisie Chiasson is an entertaining fighter. And she's got an opponent in Shayna Young, who she's definitely going to beat, in my opinion. I haven't made a prediction for this because this is a short notice replacement. She was originally supposed to be fighting Nico Montano. I believe she'll get the job done against Shayna Young. But Maisie Chiasson, if she wins, will be a 6-1 women's bantamweight and will be very interesting to watch. She's very entertaining. She has 2 TKO wins in the UFC. She came into the UFC Wow, I guess because the Ultimate... Oh my god, wow, that is actually crazy to think about. When she was 2-0, she came to the UFC. Just like that. I guess shaving your head really does work wonders if you're a female fighter. They see a shaved head, they're signing you to the UFC. Comes into the UFC, gets 3 finishes in a row, never seen the 3rd round in any of her wins in the UFC. That's the record I want to see from a female fighter that's going to generate some hype. And if she can bounce back with a big win here, we could look to moving her up the rankings some more. I think Maisie Chiasson gets it done, but that's it from me for now. The most important fighter to look out for, Brok Weaver, lot of hype. Rogerio Bontorin is the flyweight division's big hype train hope. You've got Merab versus Kenney at bantamweight, which is an amazing prospect bout from a guy who's arguably 4-0 versus a guy who's 3-0 in the UFC with wins over credentialed opponents. And then, of course, you've got Maisie Chiasson, who I just listed. Amazing fights all around the card. Looking forward to the entire thing. Pay attention to all of these guys. I couldn't make an individual video for every single one of them. I'm bundling them all in this. I'll probably do this for more events. Goodbye. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. See you later. Pay attention to them all, because they're going to... Listen, at least half of them are going to do something cool, you know? So to watch. Just watch them. It's going to be fun.